somebody working alone. But if they're making goods, the person can sell them, offset the cost at least a little bit. On the other hand, though, I guess it's one thing to repent, to polish off your inner light, but the whole point of reform is so these people can go back into society once they've served their sentence and live outside these walls as good citizens. And I guess to put it simply, that's like 100 times easier if you've got a job, especially considering just about everybody in here was some poor, unskilled person from Philly who'd come in for theft. So it seems to make good sense, doesn't it? Now, what this also shows is that before the guards had come here, basically all of them had been skilled laborers doing some kind of thing. There was a lot of cobbling, cigar rolling was quite high on the list as well, and small-scale carpentry too. And the guards would break the strict rules of solitary confinement to teach the inmates whatever they knew. I guess they just thought that this practical aspect of reform was more important, more effective than any kind of far-fetched notions about how if you talk it's going to mess up your soul, keep you from being reformed, and so on. Oh, and also, the women did the laundry. And the women never had their own cell block. They actually started their time out in the gatehouse in the earlier 1800s. Then they were in cell block 2, and then cell block 7. The reason for their moving always was the laundry facilities moved. And I guess today making the women do the laundry would be kind of gender discrimination, but back then it was quite progressive. These were women thieves too. They needed to be good citizens also once they got out, and I guess it was as practical for them to know how to be efficient laundresses as it was for men to make shoes or whatever. Yeah, so any questions about what we've covered so far? Alright, so in just a moment, I'm going to have you guys go into some cells. There are 2 open ones across the brick area. A couple things to keep in mind. The cells were quite ruined. If you're interested in what a cell would have looked like, there's one about halfway up on the left in the bricked over area. Also, the inmates did have pretty good material conditions, ate quite well, meat several times a week, a lot of vegetables, especially that they grew or were cultivated in the courtyards. Again, health is a concern, but also, I'm sure all of you guys know, it's just really hard to be a good person on an empty stomach, isn't it? So, yeah. Anyway, let's go over the brick area. I'm going to stand outside the cells, answer any questions that might come up.
Go, Jim, go.
Oh, sorry, Jeremy.
Yeah, you're okay.
Attach the hip. Your wife's camera.
So do you folks have any questions about any more of the nuances of daily life?
What happens if it snowed or rained?
Oh, there always were glass.
Okay.
Yeah, so at first the skylights were round. There's supposed to be the Eye of God. Again, that makes it difficult for me to promote this prison as secular, but the inmates were supposed to remember what kind of higher power was keeping an eye on them. And incidentally, a lot of people think this place is a panopticon. It isn't. A panopticon would mean that the person in the center surveillance hub would be able to see into every cell. The inmates would know that they were being watched, but not necessarily know when. But I think that the Eye of God was supposed to be a different kind of surveillance that was supposed to, in its way, facilitate reform. But always was glass over. Now, it seems that in the 1930s was when the round windows were switched to bar ones. I can't help thinking that now, like, God is squinting at them, but that's not the case. I think it's probably just easier to get straight glass than round be made, but I don't really know. Another thing about the doors, a lot of people guess that they're kind of short because people were shorter. That's not necessarily true. The average height was maybe 1 or 2 inches shorter than what we have today, but we don't have this documented, but it seems to be the case that these doors are made the way they are because in order to go in the cell, you have to both step up and bend over, so it's very hard to dash in and out of them. It kind of helps traffic control a little bit. Now, what else? Inmates did get the Bible to read in the earlier years. So, between the laboring and the repenting and the Bible reading, a lot of people did compare this place to a monastery for the unwilling, because I think you can safely assume most people didn't really want to be here. But the reading list did expand in the 19th century. At first it was like obvious things like Milton's Paradise Lost, humankind succumbs to sin and is eventually redeemed after some effort. But, I don't know about that. And, everybody has read that book. No, Satan is by far the most compelling character. But maybe that's the point anyway. So anyway, also there was a lot of moralizing Victorian drivel. So what's that all about you need to know of life in the early mid 19th century? Now we're going to go beyond that riot gate, start talking about modern history, the 20th century. So follow me up here now.